can't talk. It's all just fun.
Good shape.
Yeah. Yeah. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to pass this over to the fabulous Michael. The other day, Michael, someone was talking about, they're like, I can't figure out what to do. And like, Michael just comes up with the most creative ideas. No, actually, yes, he does. So, it's definitely people with it.
You cut out there a little bit, Maud. Sorry.
And to you, Michael.
Okay. All right. We good to go. Okay. All right. All right. Everybody else is muted. Okay. We're good. Well, yeah. Welcome in, everybody. Just a little close-knit fam here today, which isn't bad. I'm glad I can see all your faces. Last week I was like, I don't know how to look at so many people at the same time. So our guest today is Jason Boss, and I was excited to be able to confirm that it is pronounced Boss just recently. So I've known Jason for a while, but I've been screwing his name up for that same amount of time. Jason is with Brothers Cascadia in Vancouver. So real quick, for those who may not be familiar, Jason, just give us the brief history of Brothers Cascadia and what you guys are up to there, and then we'll get into the projects that I'm super excited about.
Yeah, so Brothers Cascadia has been around for just over 3 years now. We started in Hazeldale, Vancouver area, just off of I-5, about 5 miles from Portland. We have a 10-barrel brew house producing about 1,500 to 2,000 barrels a year. And we have a on-site tap room as well. And then we have food carts outside that kind of provide the food for the tap room. Kind of the short and sweet of it.
Yeah, it's a great place. I've been going there since they opened, maybe even a little bit before they opened, a time or two. But it's you guys have done a great job just being very community focused, community conscious, always before COVID things. That's just kind of part of the fabric of their brewery. So when COVID hit, and I mentioned this to Jason when we kind of preparing for this yesterday, that Jason's probably going to be the person I think of most when I remember what happened during COVID. Personally, for my world, because as things were going down, Jason had an energy about opportunities that arose that I can pretty safely say not everybody had the same attitude towards the world as it was changing. Jason, as the COVID things got announced and things started to close, really March 16th being that big day, everything closed. What was the attitude around Brothers Cascadia, and then how was that different than the attitude you found approaching the guild and talking to other brewers in the industry?
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, of course, like as all of this happened and we started realizing kind of what our lot in life was going to be here shortly, we had to switch gears and make sure that we kind of took care of, our own here. Our first worry was, of course, like ourselves and our staff and making sure that the business would weather this thing. But relatively quickly, we felt that we were we at least had a plan for the brewery, which was simple. We were open. We were going to do to-go beer. We did the home delivery thing. And then after that, it was really time to start focusing on what else can we do at this time, and you know, where do we kind of go from here? We knew some other breweries were definitely hit by this a little harder because of their size, their inability to package beer in cans, which was obviously huge. I think everybody knows. Or just disseminating information from the state. And within our guild, we have a lawyer, a CPA. We've got some people who've been in the industry for a really long time that are involved with the Washington Brewers Guild. And so it was just, okay, so the first thing we need to do is just start a line of communication. And so, you know, with that, begat other projects, you know, through the guild, and then also just Brothers Cascadia individually, to help ourselves get through this, but also help everybody kind of hopefully weather this storm and get through it as, you know, as unscathed as possible.
Yeah. The North Bank Brewers Alliance, as it's called, which is the Guild of Southwest Washington, it's in its infancy. I think that's fair to say. Has that guild even existed a year yet? Do you know?
The guild is at least 2 years old now. Yeah, because we've had 2 festivals. We do one every September. We've had 2 of them, and so yeah, we would be about 2 years old by now.
Okay, it's a good thing to date it by. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So this want to focus in on this project that I thought was unique, creative, different, in a strange time, and was kind of again, it was a time, like you said, everyone had to kind of look inwardly first and go, how are we going to weather this storm ahead? And then it took some talking and took some doing to kind of get folks to go, oh, now how can we collectively do something different? I want to talk about Look for the Helpers. That is the name of a beer that was released collaboratively from the Brewers Guild in the middle of all of this, and it did some pretty fun things. First of all, it wasn't just a collaboration beer of breweries. You know, it didn't center around an event. I know the North Bank Brewers Guild has done large collaborations before, so there was a little bit of precedent for it anyhow, in terms of their North Bank Beer Week collab that happens in September. So the guild's not a stranger, I guess, to collaborating this largely. But how was that idea hatched? Kind of just walk us through the early part of it. Like as you said, it was all about really opening lines of communication first with the guild and saying, hey, kind of looking up from your current dark situation perhaps, and saying, okay, how's everybody else doing? How was that? How were those early conversations? What was that process like?
Yeah, so it all kind of started among some conversations between myself and the board members of the guild, and then Justin, who owns Dwinell out in Goldendale. And it was kind of this thing, just like, okay, we do a lot of fundraising. We call for dues for the North Bank Brewers Alliance. And so the North Bank Brewers Alliance is sitting on a, very modest sum of money, but something that it was like, hey, we could do something to possibly help breweries in need. And so we took an impact survey on all of our breweries in the guild, basically asking them, hey, what are you doing right now? How impacted has your business been in this? And what can we do to help, basically? And I think the thing that made the most sense, because we couldn't divvy the money up, it wasn't going to help anybody. But after that, it's just like, the most impactful thing that made sense was how can we market our fellow breweries here in Southwest Washington? And so we came up with a few ideas. One of them was we had a big marketing campaign with a bunch of videos and such to kind of direct consumers to all of the breweries, particularly the ones that were still doing business, to go delivery and all of that. But then after we had that kind of buttoned up, we decided, hey, you know what? We also have the ability to maybe do something charitable that can help out not just the beer industry, but another industry that might be hurting. And just from watching the news and seeing all the stuff that was going on, one of the ones that kind of spoke to us, and that has also been a good partner for Southwest Washington breweries, was our local food banks. They hold a really cool festival every year, and it's always been this kind of close relationship. And so with COVID happening and people not leaving their homes and grocery stores not having excess amounts of food, and they were having a hard time keeping their food closets and food banks stocked. So we decided, hey, let's make a beer. Let's commission one of our breweries. We commissioned Backwoods to do it. Let's commission them to do it. The guild will pay for the beer. All of the breweries that want to participate can sell the beer. Each brewery got to keep a little portion of it, just so it wasn't like scavenging their own sales inside their tap room. But otherwise, all of it was donated back to the guild, and then donations to all of the food banks that represent all of Southwest Washington will be happening here actually, hopefully this week. So
awesome. Yeah, and that you answered my next question, was who benefited from this collab, and how did they benefit? Obviously, there was a benefit from the eyeballs that saw it. When I mentioned look for the helpers, I saw several people on here nod their heads like they'd heard of that beer before, which that's great. Again, the North Bank beer scene being as young as it is, it was a marketing win. But then there was the charitable aspect of it that went to food banks, local food banks. And if I remember correctly, maybe you can answer it better, it was 3 or 4 different food banks actually along the Columbia River that benefited. Is that right?
So it's going to end up being 5. We wanted to make sure that every brewery's region, their food bank was also covered. So it ended up being 5.
Awesome. Very cool. And then you mentioned that, again, the breweries didn't want to put the breweries in a position that, we were asking them, hey, sell this beer, and kind of pulling the rug out from their own beer sales in their own tap room. So there was a profit margin there that the breweries also received. Yeah.
Yep, it was about 20% of the sales of the beer got to be retained by all of the breweries, so it didn't totally, cannibalize sales that they could have made to their normal patrons. And then, yeah, the rest of that was just donated back to the guild.
Awesome. How was the recipe collaborated on? How did that come together?
Oh, with a lot of confusion and a lot of mixed opinions on everything, as most, for those of you that may have been in a collaboration, that's usually how it goes. But yeah, we landed on something, like I said, we did it at Backwoods. So of course we were subject to some of what they had available to them, which they were more than gracious enough to offer us kind of the choicest ingredients that they had in their cooler. But we knew we wanted to do something light, but something, something hoppy, but not crazy. People are in quarantine, so let's make a beer that they can crush all day and enjoy, and have fun with. And so yeah, we brewed kind of a lighter pale ale IPA, modern kind of West Coast style grist, and then I believe Amarillo, Citra, and the last hop might be escaping me. I think it might be Mosaic, but.
And those ingredients came together. How did all those ingredients come together?
Yeah, so Backwoods had contracts on all of those hops and a bunch other ones, but we kind of selected those out of their list, something that they had available. And then the grist, well, we knew what style we wanted to do. We knew, lighter bodied West Coast, a little lower alcohol. And so the grist came together pretty quick. Just trying to replicate what the concept for the beer was.
Awesome. The name, where'd that come from?
Well, I didn't come up with it, so I don't want to take credit for that. But it is, look for the helpers was, I believe, a Mr. Rogers quote. when, when times are tough and things are not going so well is, hey, look for the helpers. And that's kind of the ethos we wanted to show people. It's like, hey, and by no means were we the only ones trying to help people, obviously. But it was just like, hey, just keep your eye out for this. Like there's lots of different places that, humanity can, come together and, help each other out.
So I didn't tell Ashley that I was going to ask her any questions today. But Maud, can you unmute Ashley there? I am gonna ask Ashley a question. Surprise!
Yay!
So, yeah, I have it on good authority that Ashley designed the label for this, and I want to show. I want to show you what that looks like real quick, just so for those who maybe haven't seen it. You should be looking at it now in my window. Yes, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Work? Yeah. So, yeah, that's just a bunch of gibberish, Ashley. What's going on?
Just like how the collaboration came together with a bunch of confusion and gibberish, I wanted to make sure that's the message that we gave to the we were talking about what we wanted this beer can design to be like, and Michael and I were talking about the fact that people are looking for something to do right now, and we were like, it would be so cool if we could put a game or something on this label, and calling the beer Look for the Helpers, a word search came to mind to kind of tie everything together, but then also play into that fun element of it. So Jason's talking about brewing a beer style. That's a fun beer to drink. It's also a fun can to play with. So that was a weird sentence.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. So on that label that you just saw, actually all 29 member breweries of the North Bank Brewers Guild are hidden in the label. So that was kind of killed two birds with one stone in terms of giving some people something fun to do, and also realizing like, hey, if the whole guild's going to be a part of this and we want to give a shout out to every brewery, that's going to take up a whole lot of the label to put 29 names on the label. So might as well do both. So that was a fun thing, and yeah, Ashley and I worked together on that part. So yeah, thanks, Ashley. Sorry to put you on the spot, but not really. The other question I had was, so we kind of walked through the beginning of this, like how the collaboration came together. We've talked about how the guild, that many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak, that many brewers in the brewery, decided on a recipe, and then you've got a name for it. You've got a design for the label. The beer's been brewed. Okay, now you've got a North Bank Brewers Guild region that stretches from Goldendale up the gorge. The Winnell's the furthest east, all the way out to North Jetty, which is on the coast. They're literally footsteps from the Pacific Ocean. I don't know how many miles that is, but that's a long ways, and it sounds to me like a logistical nightmare to try to get this beer in the hands of 29 breweries across half the state, nearly. So how did you guys work that out? How did brewers get their hands on everything?
Yeah, so I mean, thankfully, everybody was like willing to kind of pitch in where they could, and to get the beer into these breweries, people drove down to Backwoods and picked it up. We scheduled times that people could come in and pick up. We did it out of Backwoods' warehouse. We were able to stay very nicely socially distant and stagger kind of when people were coming in over a couple of different days. Yeah, so nobody was able to be at the brew, obviously, and so driving into town from wherever they might be to pick up their allotment worked out great. So
One of the things that Jordan Wilson, who was with us last week, and he does design things for Old Town, 5440, and Backwoods actually. But he was talking about what's some of the things that are going to linger from this this whole COVID thing. What are the changes and the focuses that are going to continue beyond this? And he used a word. I had to ask him what it meant because it was a big word to me. Causality is what he called it. But basically, the idea that people like to rally around a cause, and it sure seemed like this beer in a fun way presented a way to help during these times, not just drink beer. We all need to drink beer too, but this did both, which was nice. Again, that goes back to, I'm reminded of a number of things that's kind of in the DNA of Brothers Cascadia. I feel like you're not strangers to giving back, not strangers to rallying folks around a cause. And some of those have been, well, I'll let you tell us maybe what some of those have been, even just friends and neighbors and things, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have just been, friends or friends of friends or customers that get sick. They have kids that have an illness, or you know what I mean. So sometimes it's just as close to home as that, and we find great pride in being able to be in a position to help people, those that are like really close to us. And then just things, we have a couple of nonprofits that we love to work with. We're pretty partial to nonprofits that help out with foster children. And so that's been a big one for us. And so we work with a couple different groups that do that. And then, but then there's things like this all the time that, during COVID, there were, things that needed to be done. And so we were happy to be a part of that.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think people turned out for it. What was your experience at Brothers Cascadia when it finally, the Look for the Helpers Day arrived and the beer was available? What did that look like at Brothers Cascadia?
I mean, it was great. I mean, the response was, we of course always like it when people enjoy the beer, which people really did. It was a great beer, and kudos to Backwoods. It was fantastic. But it was different because everybody was here because they knew that they could support something while doing something that they really loved. I mean, we sold out our allotment in an afternoon, basically, and everybody there was, not only to get that new beer or whatever, but they were, trying to, be helpful and finding a way that they could be safe and quarantine and yet still, help their own community. So, I mean, I thought it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And what you said echoes the things that I heard around the community from different breweries who also had the beer was they didn't have it for very long. It appeared quick. How much of that how many cases of that were created?
Around 150.
Okay. Yeah. Which spread between 29 breweries, spreads pretty thin.
Yeah.
That's great with just how quick that sold, and the response to it. So you said now that the beer's gone, it can't really be found anymore. Now we're at the place where those donations are starting to happen. How was that coordinated between the breweries? How does all that money get pulled together and go to the right food banks? How's that working?
Yeah, so that was a kind of a tough nut to crack because, of course, Clark County, where Vancouver lies, is the biggest county that houses the most breweries. Also has the largest food bank. So, we were thinking like maybe we do it per capita, or maybe we do it, how many breweries does that food bank house? And so we kind of blended these different ways. So we had records of every brewery and how many cases that they received and how much they sold and what their donation amount looked like. We also had, so Clark County houses 20 of the 30 breweries or 29 breweries, and Pacific County only holds one. So, we kind of broke down, per brewery to food bank, but then also like, okay, we want to make sure there's a minimum. So I think our minimum was like $600, $700 goes to each food bank, no matter what, no matter how many breweries they do or don't have. And then there was kind of a scale ramping upwards based on how many cases were sold in each county and all of that. So.
Awesome. That's really all the questions I had on Look for the Helpers. We have another topic that we'll get to, and talk about that as well. Maud, if you're okay with this, I'd like to just see, before we shift topics, which is different. Usually we spend the whole time on one thing. Before we shift topics, is there anybody who has some questions for Jason about Look for the Helpers specifically? I saw Jack.
It's kind of an indirect question. I think what you all did was pretty fantastic, and I can commend you all for doing that in such a short time frame. But I'm curious, have there been other benefits that your breweries have received by doing something great like this for the community, as far as just helping your business out by people mentioning it, or other things that have come your way as part of that sort of engagement with your community that you weren't expecting, that was kind of a cool outcome? And I'd love to hear if there was anything like that, because I know people are doing so many unique things with the intention of helping, but I like to understand also, like, what are those unexpected, unique things that happen after that were really cool, that you kind of take away and like, man, I'm glad we did that.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe not quite as cool as of an answer as maybe you're hoping, but I think the really big one was it kind of forced the breweries here in Southwest Washington to be talking to one another. It allowed, I was on the phone with Backwoods and Michael and all of the guild members, particularly the board members. And so just having that big open line of communication, it reopened a lot of things that we didn't have before, especially, I think a lot of brewers would agree, is just like yeast management was really tough in this time because everybody was downsizing their production amount. And so just having these open lines of communication was really, really big. And then, I think just the big one, especially for like us and the entire guild and all of the breweries, we find that it's really important. Like, we wanted to embed ourselves in our local community. Our local community has done so much for us. We're kind of a brewery created by the nice people and the wonderful community. And so, how do we pay back? How can we really, be a part of this like living, breathing organism? And so just something like this just feels like natural, and it feels good. And I feel like, once you get in there, that support is never going to go away, and it's mutual. So
That's pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Can I answer that question a little bit too with the email that we got?
Of course.
Yeah.
So the guild actually got an email from a guy who drank the beer, and he just like shot out an email to say, hey, thanks so much. The thing you guys wrote in the side panel inspired me to want to be a better helper during this time, which for me was like the coolest thing to read, because that was kind of the hope, was that not only would we be able to donate money to the food banks, but that we would also inspire people to go be a helper themselves. And that, yeah, so that was really cool to see.
Yeah, and a lot of credit to Jason for breaking the ice. And full disclosure, I do some marketing things with the guild, and as all of this was happening, there was just a sense of fear was really gripping a lot of folks. And this was something that I know everybody was super grateful that someone had the chutzpah to say, hey, I know we're all dealing with this right now, but let's open lines of communication. Let's start talking about ideas, and let's do something. And I think there's something to that, even as we move forward through these different phases. I know, right now, Southwest Washington, we're only a few days into this phase 2 where, we can have people in the breweries and 50% capacity. I know that's not the case for Portland yet. And even in these times, there's still a sense of maybe not even necessarily fear, but maybe some folks can be gripped by I've got to look out for number one. I've got to figure my own stuff out. And so this is just an encouragement. It's an encouraging story of what can happen when you kind of get outside of yourself, and don't mind breaking the ice, I think is the best way to put it. So yeah, that was super fun thing to hear about, and I even learned new things, even though we on the North Bank Brewers Alliance side, I was involved in marketing some of this collab and getting the word out there about where folks can buy it. There were a lot of things happening that went into this that even I took for granted and didn't know were going on. So it's really neat to learn and find out how that idea was brought together.
One moment, Michael. Do we have any other questions before we transition? I know I have a couple of questions for you, Jason, but Jill, it looks like you kind of raised your hand a bit.
I think Jill is muted. Can we unmute Jill?
Oh, let me just unmute for you. You all have the ability to unmute yourself. Did that come up for you?
Does that work?
Nope. Well, Jason, one of the questions I had for you is, it seems like this was a really rapid response, and kind of following along with everybody. Like, I'm really curious about, you had this idea. How fast did this all kind of, were people really quick to jump on, or did it just kind of drag out? Like, I was really curious about that, especially when people are so stressed out about their own personal businesses. So I'd love to hear kind of how.
Yeah. I think, so I'm really lucky here at Brothers Cascadia. I don't manage this company by myself. I've got 2 business partners, and between the 3 of us, we're able to kind of share the load a bit. And it started with a conversation here amongst the 3 of us, like, hey, what can we do? And then that just kind of grew. And so we brought the guild involved, and then Justin over at Jonelle played a really big part in it as well. And the first thing, like I said, was there was a lot of data acquisition, like where are all of these breweries at, kind of their brewery health, you could say. And it took us about a week to gather that. But then after that, it became pretty clear that a marketing idea with doing these videos and getting Michael to help push that, and then a beer as well. And then the ability to make that a charitable beer came pretty quick and easy. But yeah, it was kind of mobilizing as quickly as possible to get something to happen. We didn't know how long this was going to go for. We wanted it to stay relevant, and we also wanted to help as quickly as possible. And so that kind of lit a fire that got us moving.
That's exciting. Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions on this topic before we transition? Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to you, Mr. Michael.
Yeah. So as this was happening with the guild and everything, I was surprised when I'd stopped by Brothers Cascadia. I don't remember why. Probably to get beer. That's usually the purpose. But I had stopped by, and Jason, you said, how about that Beer Nerds collab thing that we did before. Can we do that again? And I was seriously like, in the middle of all this, you want to do okay? If you're up for it, I'm up for it. But don't you got other things to worry about right now? So for those that might not be aware, there's a Portland, Vancouver-based Facebook group called Beer Nerds. It's got about 3,900 members, and a friend of mine, Phil Mitchell, and myself started it about 7 years ago. And I'll kind of let Jason talk about how they put this idea together, because this is actually the second time this Facebook group has done a collaboration with Brothers Cascadia. And the format through which, I mean, we just talked about how Jason and Brothers Cascadia were part of a 29 brewery collaboration. Imagine collaborating with 3,900 people, and not just 29. That's what happened. So Jason, even going back, if you can remember back that far, I think the first one was for the 5-year anniversary of Beer Nerds, some 2 years ago, almost. Talk to us about how that's put together from the brewery side, because again, you can't just put 3,900 cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I mean, so we've always, even before our brewery started, we were members of this group, and we were very aware. They're a very vocal and active group on Facebook, which for this purpose actually works really, really well. And so it started with a sit down between myself and Michael and Phil, talking about like, hey, how can we do a collaboration with this Facebook group? Something Brothers Cascadia's really enjoyed. We love doing collaborations. We love doing brewery to brewery collaborations. We really love doing brewery to non-brewery groups or companies. So restaurants, Facebook groups, whatever. And so we have a good time with that. And so it just made me think like, hey, this is a group that really enjoys beer, that they're always around. They see all the stuff that Brothers Cascadia is doing and all the other breweries around here. Let's do something that kind of celebrates them. I didn't realize it was their anniversary coming up, so that worked out really, really well. And so we kind of amongst talking and having a beer or two, kind of came up with this format that I think worked really well. And now that you mention it, I think we should steal that and use that for the North Bank Brewers collab. Is this idea of surveying? Basically, we took polls. I mean, how many polls do you think it was, Michael?
I don't remember the first one. This last one, basically, we did Facebook polls, and I think there were 6 or 7 of them.
That sounds about right. So we polled everybody in the group once a day. We come on and say, so we started with something like, hey, what sort of beer do you guys want to see? And so it's like pale ale, IPA, stout, XYZ, whatever, right? And then they picked it. Then we went, okay, we broke down into sub-styles. So this year we did a pale ale. So then we broke that down. Okay, what kind of pale ale do you guys want to see? American, hazy, British, Belgian, all these different pale ale options. Then we broke down further. Okay, alcohol percentage. Where do you guys want to see this fall in that? Hop level. I gave them, I think, 3 or 4 different grits to choose from, different grain bills to choose from, and then a list of different hops that we wanted to see in there. The hops, and then kind of I gave some of the typical flavor and aroma statistics on those hops. And what do we want to see in there? And so the whole time, Brothers Cascadia is able to kind of guide it. It's like, okay, we're not going to put a style in there we don't want to brew or don't particularly feel confident with. We're not going to put, a hop in there that we don't have. Like, we don't often get Galaxy, so we're not going to put that in there, for instance. So we're able to kind of give a wide parameter, and then all of these members of the guild or the Beer Nerds group get to weigh in on what they want to see. And then they are also, of course, listing comments and giving us more inspiration for next questions or next year's brew. They also got to name the beer, which is also a point of pride for a couple different people, which is fun. So
Yeah. The name was uh, for the sake of ease, we kept the label art from the first one where the name was selected as Ridin' Nerdy. There it is. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I have it too.
Yeah.
Forgot I was going to open that. Thanks for the reminder. But the so the label art is the same, primarily all the same, except for one little part. We were able to vote on basically a sub name, and the one that won, if you can read it there, is Quarantine Crusher. Is what won. So yeah, like you said, the person who suggested that name, of course, has a little bit of extra excitement over. Yeah, mod. It's I named a beer. But yeah, lots of fun. I think the thing that's most unique about this and is the fact that somehow we came up with a way for so many people to be involved, yet, like you alluded to or said there, Jason, the brewery's not out of control on this. It's not purely beer styles in the wind and hop varieties in the wind. There's always a lot of options for each one of these polls, but at the end of the day, there's not an option in those polls that Brothers Cascadia is not comfortable moving forward with. So yeah,
Always multiple choice.
yeah. Multiple choices, but all still acceptable. Um, so yeah, not so much a question, but just to kind of talk through what happened going forward from there. So after all the voting and everything, we're ready for a brew day.
Yeah.
Of course, that brew day's got to fit into your schedule and line up with the canning day. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, then in the past, when we did this the first time for the anniversary, there was an event. There was a brew day party, essentially. People got to climb up on the brew deck and you know be a part of the brew day. This year was quite different, so we did a virtual brew day in which we went live in Beer Nerds, I don't know, 4 or 5 times that day at different points of the process. Um, and really, leaning into the name of the group, got very nerdy about all the different things that were happening along the process. One of my favorite parts about that was that this whole how it all came together is now recorded for history. Like those videos are always accessible now in the Beer Nerds group to go back and see that brew day. Even now a month later when the beer is available and maybe you couldn't take part of the brew day, you can actually go back and watch those 3 or 4 different 15 to 30-minute videos and hear from Jason talk about um, really detailed process. That was pretty neat. So yeah, that was another thing that somehow you pulled off during these crazy times. That was a lot of fun for folks and gave folks again something to rally around. And it was a, a success a successful release, was it not? What the turnout for release day? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that was really fun. When it was, we finally got it all packaged up, and the next day, I believe, was like a Wednesday. Not typically a crazy day, especially during all of this COVID stuff. But we had a really good showing of beer nerds who came in to get you know, the first 4-pack or case or, you know, whatever they were walking with. So we had a fun little 6-foot responsible line outside, or 6-foot space outside. Went through a lot of beer really quickly, and you know, for a brewery, of course, that's like the dream. We're not necessarily a lineup outside the brewery, limited release stuff, and so for us, that's kind of a treat to see that outside of our place. But yeah, it was a great time. It was fun to see a lot of people that we don't get to see very often. We also did a lot of like home deliveries as well on that day, bringing the Beer Nerds beer to people. And we even had some like swag items for some of those beer nerds who wanted as well. So
Yeah, and yeah, props to Jason on that one. Again, he sorry I'm bragging on you so much, but he said, you know, hey, we should do because the first time we did Beer Nerds hats. So the folks who came to the brew day, I believe it was, we got one of 50 hats. It was pretty neat. But this time it was Tiku glasses. And so we put the Beer Nerds logo on Tiku glasses, and Brothers Cascadia was awesome to offer those basically at cost to the Beer Nerds, just to make it an extra special thing, to commemorate the day. You know, maybe some folks hold on to a can and, you know, keep it somewhere in their house. Who knows? I'm one of those people. I keep cool cans that I like. Not everybody does, but a cool glass is something that people can use over and over again to remember that really special time. And I think, you know, like Jack asked about what some of those maybe fringe benefits he didn't expect from Look for the Helpers. I think a fringe benefit of Jason's efforts during this time is, you know, might not have been raking in money hand over fist during COVID-19, not at all, but was certainly raking in that clout, that remembrance, that hey, we did something during this time that people are going to remember on the other side of this. And you know, it's not just these two things that I brought up. Brothers Cascadia is invested in a lot of folks' lives in a good way. And even for my wife and I, when Clark County opened up on Friday, we got the announcement that Clark County could open up. The first place we went to was Brothers Cascadia. And there was not a shortage of people there. So the love runs deep and continues to run deep. Real quick, in wrapping this up, I just had one other quick question that I'll leave it up to you how much you want to say about it, tell folks about it or whatnot. But you gave me a little whisper, and you guys posted a teaser on Instagram about a non-brewery to brew. It's a brewery to guitar pedal company collab.
yeah. Oh, I'm super excited about this one.
What is this?
So I'm a guitar player, not a great one, but I enjoy playing, and I'm also kind of a gearhead. I like you know, stuff, and so we became friends with one of our food carts outside is owned by a guy named Brandon. He also owns the Thirsty Sasquatch tap room in downtown Vancouver, and also has a major playing role in a company in Portland called Catalan Bread. They make handmade boutique guitar pedals. They're relatively popular in the guitar community, which is kind of fun. And so we just got to talk and was like, hey, you know, we see each other a lot, you know, it would be fun. We really like non-brewery collaborations. And so he was like, you know what, we're coming out with a new guitar pedal this summer. Do you guys want to make like an official beer for it? And I was like, yeah. So yeah, anyways, he has, they had this pedal coming out called Gygus. It just became available on their online store, so people can go purchase that if they wanted. but it's what's called a fuzz pedal, which is a type of distortion. And his thing was like, this is the most usable fuzz pedal ever. And so since we're collaborating, we can't say, hey, this brewery, makes beer kind of like this, so let's take something from that and add some Brothers Cascadia elements to it. It's like, okay, well, let's take some of what they're doing. So we said, okay, the most usable fuzz pedal ever, So instantly came to mind like the most drinkable beer ever. And I was like, okay, so we landed on the most drinkable beer ever. And it is a peach pale ale because it's a fuzz pedal and peaches have fuzz. And it's not really all that clever, but that's where we went with it. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. That's fun. Like I said, I really enjoy these non-brewery collabs. It seems like, they get really excited about it. It's new for them. It's fun for us because it gives us a new dimension to think about beer and beer recipe design. And then I hope our customers get a kick out of it, because I do, but it seems like they do, I suppose.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. I didn't know it was a fuzz pedal or that peaches were involved. That's just the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, any questions for Jason about Riding Nerdy or guitar pedals or fuzz distortion or peaches?
When do I get to drink that? That's all. That was my question.
Yeah, so we are releasing it, I believe, Wednesday.
I'll see you Wednesday.
Yep, pretty sure Wednesday. People, we should definitely check out our social media, because I don't run the social media, thankfully, and that person knows. So I'm sure there'll be some posts coming up on that soon. So.
Where do we find the pedals?
So right now, I believe they're only available at catalanbread.com.
Inbred?
Yeah, which is, I believe they're selling them exclusively through their website right now. They may make their way out to distributors and into like guitar stores, but guitar stores aren't really open right now. So.
Well, thank you all so very much for joining us. If you have any other questions, but I do want to say thank you so much, Jason, for being willing to jump on and share all of your great information, plus all of the amazing things you're doing for the community at large, beer industry and the community. I want to say thank you, Michael and Charlie Brown, for making these events happen. I just get to show up and yammer and listen. It's fantastic. Excellent job. And then Ashley, thank you again for being willing to be put on the spot. Absolutely appreciate that. And I would really, since I can't get the beer, if you'd be willing to send me the crossword, because I really want another crossword, but the word search, I just really want to. I'm gonna circle.
Probably find a can for you somewhere there, Mod. Thanks to Mod for being the best mod orator the world's ever known.
Oh my gosh. Wait, thank you. Thank you guys so much. And we hope to see you next week. Thank you everyone for jumping on. And Jason, I'll see you on Wednesday because I want that beer.
Sounds good. We'll see you then.
Thank you, Jason.
See you
Have a
guys.
good one, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Mark.